after all the automation about the clinical automation, at the end of the day is really the humans. So if this is really successful, my question at the end of the day is what happened to the future? I always like to talk something with solid data. So I'd like to give one case study, but I think the workflow is. First of all, I'd like to give an overview. Why we are here today is a healthcare landscape is very complex. As we know, the cost quality issue and a whole bunch of macroeconomic government, Washington give a lot of information. And socio-economically, a lot of pressures in terms of patient experiences, equity, big health, all kind of things. This is what driving today. We have kind of the healthcare transformation. That's why we're here today. We're interested. How can we improve out of this city? How can we do something about it? And if you look at it, healthcare, as you know, is a huge market. And if your last figures is, how to reverse? It's about 20% of GDP. We are the only country in Earth actually have 20% of GDP. I don't know whether it's a proud of or not proud of. It's good for a different country to have such huge percentage. At the same time, we do have a lot of waste. About 1/3 of healthcare costs is waste. There's something that the money you can use it somewhere else. If you save it, something more useful to people with indigenous health or people with climate change. But this is the area that is driving the whole thing. If you look at our hospital system, the profit margin is very thin. They want to make sure all the costs are being captured. Some people actually break it down, look at the cost, administrative cost, pricing, diagnosis, all kind of things, you can look at it. And administrative is what driving a lot of IT innovation right now in healthcare. If you look at the news, all of them is about revenue cycle, billing, scheduling, all kind of things, insurance. There's been a lot of, we call it low-hanging fruit, because it's a business cycle that you can apply in many, many areas, right? But there is also pricing. Government recently have the transparency of drugs. And misdiagnosis is actually a major thing. This is the one who's touching the humans, patients. Overdiagnosis, overtreatment. We heard about fraud and abuse, which is not that bad actually. Compared to the other number, it's bad, but it's not as bad. Coordination. So the question is really, can AI as a technology be able to help resolve some of this problem? This is the question. And given not enough time, I just want to show one example about misdiagnosis cases. The CAI can do in the case study. So automation, as mentioned, has been, right now is actively in all kind of business, administration, all kind of things. And manufacturing, the main thing is really reduce the repetitive mundane work at the moment. The question is, can we build a platform? Really, medicine is about care, about patient health, to a virtual doctor platform to replace existing tasks of the flesh and blood nurses and clinicians. This is the ultimate question for healthcare area. I like to use a case of stroke, but actually, the thinking actually can apply to many workflows. Stroke is a major thing. Number two, cost 800,000 patients per year, or 80% of ischemic stroke in US. By the way, stroke is really a diagnostic problem, not a stroke problem. By the time with Cassinian or intervention techniques, if we know you have a stroke, the problem we don't. A lot of time we miss it. And if you look at that, in fact, even I say 800,000 cases, if you look at primary center like Houston Methodist, we're about 1/3 treated in there. But the major thing is really a hidden silent misstroke population. This is a huge, half of the population, so even 98, depending on the measure. So really how to using AI to move this silent misstroke into suspected stroke and then go into some possible treatment stroke. That's the whole holy grail we try to do. And CT is the workhorse. You go to stroke, you go to ER room. The problem with CT is very noisy. We're using non-contrast CT, very hard to detect early infarct. And the detection rate is very low in the first 3 hours. And reality is not enough stroke specialists. No one's sitting there in the ER room waiting for you to have a stroke. And diffusion MRI is a gold standard, but it's only when you enter the hospital. These are references. This data is a set data, actually, reality is. Half of our calls are wrong. This is nationwide data. And how can we do something to improve it? And as I think when you talk about automation, even AI or whatever, you don't do piecemeal automation. Just like you do cost, total cost, you improve the cost, you look at the total cost of the system. If you want automation, you look at the total value process. This is the workflow pretty much on the stroke in this country. We go in, existing ER room, you go to suspicious stroke. First, the nurses or ER doc will triage you. They look at you, ask you to read some story. And then your suspicious stroke, go to CT contrast CT scan. If you have EMR data, come with EMR data together and then go to. This is what the process is. The problem, as I mentioned, there are a couple of things. Not enough people to around, no specialists. The imaging is very lousy at the moment. We can't afford to put an MRI in every ER room at the moment. So we actually do a AI-assisted workflow. We try to look at the whole process. Let's look at the triage. How do we try to automate it? We do actually do an app, look at it, and there are two things, right? To look at it, we have an app look at you, a 3D, just a human. There's something called a storybook. This is a standard clinical protocol. We have patients to read. This is a cookie jar. Someone's stealing cookie jar. The mother is always washing the water, always looking for something. The water flew down the sink. She is not aware of it. The kid at the back look at the cookies and almost falling down. We want the patient to read it and tell us what it is. Fine. So we actually analyze the speech, analyze the video at the same time, sync them together. In this particular case, even we look at the word they use to find a relationship and analyzing it. And lo and behold, this is the data. This is a preliminary trial. Everything in medicine is about validation. You can talk all day long. If you don't validate, everything is garbage. So end of the day, we analyze this data. And we do a study on about 221 patients. And with gender, age, ethnicity, race, all these things. So our is outperform all the existing algorithm. Look at the video, look at the speech, analyzing, combined together to triage it. And this is, we call it deep stroke, right? Deep learning approach model performance. And you look at it, it's 20, the one interesting thing is our model achieved accuracy of 72%, which is better than the doctor, which is clinical impression. 69%. It makes sense, right? I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive in the beginning. It actually makes sense. Remember, the physician are not stroke specialists. They come in, there are many things going on, many things to distract them. So machine, if it's working, is very consistent and objective without ambient noise. And this performance initial data, pioneer study, we have showed that performance accuracy is much better than human, and we are doing a large clinical trial. And if this case you read automate, hopefully if this work with ER room, we can start going to mobile unit and go to outpatient care center or even go to nursing home and home eventually. And this is the app we have done on this particular part, and we are testing a larger clinical trial with 1,000 patients right now in our health system. The other one is really about avatar. And eventually, if you can do that, the next step is, can you actually create some sort of avatar to replace, sorry, I missed, they missed the, I don't know how to hit the, it's fine. It's opposed to a stroke exam, but the idea we have a video, we can track all the exam virtually, and the computer computer vision can pick up your things and give you a score back to the doctor. The idea is really about a stroke specialist spend about 30 minutes or half an hour at least per day just doing this mundane redundant work. Reality, they should be in a patient bedside, touching the patient, talking to the patient. Instead of doing this repetitive work can be reduced by the machine. That's what we do here in this particular study. The second part I want to do is after we triage it, successful, really about going to imaging now. How you do the imaging? As I mentioned about it, 2/3 of acute ischemic stroke are missed in the CT within 3 hours stroke. And The main reason is small change of CT house field unit is the unit to measure CT, and noise get this low performance. And you cannot add more radiation dose because hard to exceed the full dose. This is all limitation. This is reality, and we are facing it. So we apply the AI, we create a scheme, we actually able to reduce the noise, but even bigger than, a few times bigger than full dose imaging. And the way we achieve it is everybody pretty much major medical center these days have a data warehouse already. So you can put all your data or packs. You can put all your data, average out, we do average means. We use temporal image data of a stroke patients and put into certain deep learning scheme. And then using that, we're creating a scale to do that, denoising, using AI denoising. These will give you a result. And you can see on the image, original CT, using our scheme on the right and somewhere outside there, the quality is much improved. And we have tested on platform of GE and Siemens, over 300 patient data. And the quality is much better. Remember, this is not signal to noise ratio, this is contrast to signal ratio. It's much better than signal to noise. We don't add the noise. Give you some example. This is origin on contrast CT. If you do a circle in the middle, is a green one. You can see I cannot tell difference, just have one peak. In reality, after the noise, I can see there are two peaks. I know it's something wrong with the stroke. And this is the machine can tell you, more than human visualization. And these are some of the cases we actually miss it in diagnostic. When radiology look at it, and they miss it, and after we apply algorithm, we actually improve it. And this study has been going further. We look at compare with other CT scheme, our result is consistently much better. And one interesting thing, people always think about deep learning require big data. It's not true, actually. In this case, we don't need the big data cases to learn. And also, a lot of people, because of lack of data, they're using data augmentation. They break the image down into multiple pieces, and increase image is bad for this particular case, because you're adding noise in the system. I try to denoise it. I don't want to add more noises into it. So my point I want to make is when you apply deep learning, you better know what you're doing. You actually amplify the errors than doing the problem. But this is a case that we don't do a few cases. About 179 patients already achieved such a result. And after you have a denoised CT, a lot of things you can do. In the past, you can't do, right? For example, this one, I can create a net water uptake map. It's important for stroke. In the past, you need to go out to do a CT perfusion, all kind of thing. And this is bypass all steps. The whole idea is, using this approach, you really have to do just a normal, traditional first CT scan, non-contrast CT scan, go through the AI algorithm, and then it can tell you better diagnosis in the additional process. Every time you take a scan, you get an insurance approval, all kind of thing, time wasted, cost money. This actually, right away, the original scan will give you all the result. And also, we try to, anyone who work with a vendor, you know a lot, some of you may be an enterprise vendor. But you know, vendor is very hard, right? In medicine, these days, we are infrastructure control, if imaging packs, maybe by GE, Philips, Siemens, and EMR by Epic. You want to integrate this type of software into their system. It's a long negotiating process, costs money, all kind of thing. So we decided to burn everything just into a GPU small box, and then convert that into a standard protocol, DICOM. So it become a DICOM device. You can plug in any workstation, talk to the PACS, talk to the CT scanner. You bypass the vendor. You don't need the negotiation. The scan the image, send it in, send it back. And you can do the same thing like image, text, you can do HL7. This is a trend why the edge computing become more important. Everybody go to cloud. We tend to go reverse direction. I think local hospital need to take control of the data. Cloud is easy to go in, very hard to get out. By the time you get out, it's quite cost you arms and leg. But this is the one we have been testing right now in the clinical trial. Work very well, the communication very well. And this is a trend I think we see more and more. You give a local authority back to the local things. And this is more complicated. Remember, we do video features, we do speech features, and we have a whole bunch of image features, and also all kind of in-out data. All these stored data is already done. You can process it. You can combine deep learning network and give a score and make a decision. Finally, to compare with the clinician, we're doing clinical trial on this particular part. So it's very quick. I will quickly to show you the concept. And this concept is generic, if you think about it. I just put in some certain context within the stroke. So the cognitive automation using AI to do the complex tasks, not just maintain repetitive tasks. They will reduce the healthcare cost, waste, and fraud, but also actually reducing the staffing problem right now, especially for the area that who is far away, rural area, underserved area. And this is the area that I think is a very promising area, and in the direct in clinical care. And one thing about, you can do a lot of AI in back office without validation. Who cares? No one knows, right? But you can't do that in front end when you see a patient, when you diagnose the patient disease. So validation, garbage in, garbage out. Validation is a very key word in AI application in medicine. And so far, a lot of algorithm, I think a lot of IT organizations start realize that. They start putting in some quality control SOP into the process. After half a year, review it again. Additional workload. You need to do that. Procedure change, drug change, patient change, demographic changed. Whatever model you have done in the early on may not work half a year later. So these are the things that we're suggesting. Now, the question is really, after I finish, I ask myself questions, really. If automation, AI really work, so what would be the role of future doctors, right? I mean, we're a lot of sci-fi. I mean, AI since the beginning is talk about using machine to replace human and all kind of things. So if it's successful, what happens if you talk to the machine? What will be the patient-physician relationship and patient experiences? All kind of things, right? These are the questions, the next level. And I can guarantee you that this question will be coming faster than what you think. A lot of people is coming in, data is available, all these basic EMR, PACS, raw data is there, machine is there, computer power is there. It's a matter of put together in actual use. And this is a case of stroke. You can see the application you can do in another area. So these are the, so far we take a role at the moment is we try to using AI to replace the mundane work of physician. If you are surprised, a lot of physicians do a lot of mundane work, alerts. That part, we can actually remove it, like diagnosis of patient, triage the patient. It's more complicated, but it can be automated. We want to give physician more times, so they can spend in the bedside talking to the patient and touching the patient. Emotion part is a critical part in medicine. So far, AI cannot do it, but a lot of mundane automation part, we can do it. So this is my thought, but it's open to questions. Thank you very much.